see you. Yeah, so we're going to have our yearly album session. So it's good to
Exactly.
catch up.
Yeah, I
How's-
think I'm a fourth timer now.
yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. I always say it happens in threes, but I think you're on top of the list of reoccurring musicians on the show. So
Love it.
I love it.
I'm honored. Yeah.
So thank you for sending the album over. I've had a wonderful time. I'm still old school, so I pop that in the CD chamber and I go. And watching the world
Yeah.
float by while it happens, it's great. So
Awesome.
So talk to me a little bit. I guess I want to begin with right now, and I know we've covered the pandemic, but it's the 5 year anniversary, which seems really weird right now that it's been that far ago.
Yeah.
So how much do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about how the audience reacts, the way you're creating now, the way the music business works? Is any of that even in your frame of reference for what you're doing as a musician now?
I wouldn't say it's too much on my radar. I'm sure there's more like ripple effect things, just, venues that made it or didn't make it and, people's tendencies to stay in the house or not. But I'm not really thinking about it in my day to day.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure since it was such a seminal a moment where we hit the anniversary thing.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 years. That's wild to think about.
So weird, so weird. So Pleasant Returns, talk to me a little bit about this album. I love the sound of it, and it's really been nice to hear your evolution. And I'm curious before we actually get into your artistic vision and approach for this. How do you go into each of these projects? Is it an episodic look at where you're at in your life? Is it an evolution of you as a musician? Is it all of the above? How are you going into each project and constructing the scaffolding that makes this building?
Yeah, I think maybe all of the above to a certain extent, but um I think it kind of comes together gradually. It's just got to start with one melody that becomes a song, and then, maybe I'll get a kind of disparate three songs done and scrap one of them and see how two kind of come together. Then I'll see kind of what's working and it feels cohesive between the music I've written already and see what might be needed in a batch and try and keep writing things that are in line with what I'm doing, but provide something different for the album.
I guess it's a bit of a misnomer because at the end of the day, your DNA is improv. So you go in with
Yeah,
an inspiration. And I've learned that very well from the jazz community. There's something about celebrating the temporal nature of things that will never happen again. The way a bird
yeah,
flies
totally.
in front of your windshield or the way that a sun sets. It's never going to happen. And it's all improv. It's just
Yeah,
there's thousands of metrics that go into how things work. And it's the same thing with constructing a song.
definitely. And I kind of like to toe the line between allowing the song to be a vehicle for improvisation and showcase the composed elements.
Yeah.
I think the two can kind of highlight each other if
Yeah.
you do it right.
Yeah. I think the one great thing about the title of this album is that I always had this desire while this pandemic was going on that I wanted to catch up with all these musicians after the fact. It was hazy. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but you're an example of that. And it's pleasant returns. That's the way I think about all these musicians that I have the
Yeah,
fortunate chance to interview post and like you got an album, you're doing live shows. It's a pleasant return. I love coming back to this. So what was
yeah.
your meaning behind this album and how did you kind of construct the songs that went into this project?
Well, it kind of has some dual meanings. I mean, I wrote all these songs when I was living in New Orleans, with no knowledge that I was not going to live in New Orleans when I recorded them.
Yeah.
So, part of it is just a very literal, like after a year away, I came back to New Orleans and recorded with my pals in the studio. We've
Yeah.
tracked several albums at. Um, and part of it was just how the meanings of the songs had evolved to me over that year because there was sort of some heavier things happening in my life when I wrote them, and then a lot of the subject matters had just kind of naturally gone in a more positive direction by the time we recorded them. And so some of the tracks that might have had a bit more of a edgy nature were able to come out kind of more fun, I thought. Um, yeah, there was a song about like a friend going through a divorce, and he was just in a way better place by the time we tracked it. There was a song about my uncle who had passed away, and that was kind of COVID related. It wasn't it wasn't that, but just a hospital being, overpopulated. And it seems like that is something that's happening less, at least. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, just things on the album could have been a little more somber, and they kind of had more of a lightness to them by the time we recorded it.
Well, that's the interesting thing about covering albums is that by the time I'm talking to you about it, you've recorded, mixed, mastered, and gone through all that. You're just in the promotional stage. So it's almost like you psychologically have to shift from this time period that you may want to get away from.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
totally.
saying? It's almost like you got to write the biography again and be like, "Oh man." But I mean, not all of it because it's always
Yeah,
magnanimous when you have a project that people get to hear and swim through.
but yeah, sometimes by the time other people are hearing it, you're like, what did that sound like?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know, I got married in 2019 and I was supposed to go to New Orleans. I've always wanted to go there and there was a hurricane brewing and unfortunately we had to
yeah,
repivot and go to Colorado. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I've only ever heard how wonderful the how wonderful New Orleans is. The history, the allure, the feeling. There's
yeah.
something that's different. I don't think I've ever been quite to a place like that in this country. So the reason why I'm asking you this is getting back there, like Pleasant Returns and recording there. It has to just be, is it almost an existential moment when you come back to New Orleans? Like it's fresh again? Or are you just adding layers onto this vibe of having the New Orleans feeling in your blood?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely refreshing to be back there. I feel like that city can kind of so specific, and it can kind of bring different things out of you. So it definitely feels like getting back to a part of myself when I'm there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's when you hook up with people again who you've played hundreds of hours with, who it feels like could just be yesterday,
Yeah.
that you saw them last, even if it's a lot of time has passed. So it's cool to be able to maintain those relationships, and just going back to your old favorite restaurants and everything,
Yeah.
just the architecture. It's a nice. I always enjoy being back.
Well, I think about that from a Kansas City perspective. I mean, obviously not as a musician, but as someone that lives here that covers jazz, there's always going to be that vibe that it's one of the original cradles of this art form. It's where it
Yeah,
began, from Louis Armstrong to Buddy Bolden to all those cats that started this out. And I go back and think about that with Kansas City because, one of the original interviews we had, I asked if you could get into a time machine and go back in time. That was fueled off of me walking out of a club off 18 and Vine and thinking about all the ghosts that were running into it.
yeah,
Because at that time, it was kind of after Robert Altman came to town and made Kansas City, he rebuilt that whole area.
yeah,
And you just think about all of the battle of the bands and all of the cats that would come through Mary Lou, Count Basie, all of
yeah.
those guys. And New Orleans has to have that palatable echo from the past that just infuses you as a musician and makes you feel it.
Yeah, totally. And they take it to a literal level there too. There's a lot of speculation about ghosts and everything. Yeah.
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 Uh, but yeah, there's definitely something about being in the city that brings out a certain energy, I think. And it's recording too. It's nice to have a studio that you've spent a bunch of time in and feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
It can kind of take you back to a place where you've had fun before and been creative.
I
So
know I've done,
we've done the last three records at Maroney Studios, which
yeah,
is my favorite spot there.
just has to be a homecoming. Um,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Um, so let me ask you this. What are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album?
That's a good question. I always like things to be up to interpretation if people find their own meaning in it. But I would hope it's just a fun fun listening experience that could be, a record you could just put on and enjoy passively or get really deep with and attach more emotions to. I think I like to try and make music that can be demanding if you want it to be, but also just um, nice as well.
Yeah.
So, choose your own adventure.
The one thing too about right now in 2025, things are heavy. Politically, things are sideways. People are in uncertainty. It seems to me it's not necessarily that it's on the forefront, but it's there. All of this new music that's coming out is hopefully a siesta for us to kind of have a little bit of escapism. Do you ever think about that?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely I think there's value in just putting something nice into the world, whether
Yep.
you're a musician or anything else.
Yeah.
We need nice
We,
things.
we certainly do. So,
Yeah.
what are you doing as far as promotion shows? Anything anybody can catch you live? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So we actually did an album release show last night in Asheville, a couple days early. And not too many things on the books right now. I'm actually going on a release tour in a few days, but for another friend that Charlie Ballantyne's album that we
Okay.
recorded.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe I'll hand out some flyers for my stuff while I'm on the road with him. But
totally.
I'm not really touring right now, but I'll plan on maybe trying to get out of town again in the summer. And if you follow me on the usual places, I always am announcing when I'm playing places.
So pleasant returns. The one thing we did learn from the pandemic is how Bandcamp and how people can get this music that will benefit the music community the
Yeah,
best. Is Bandcamp the best way?
Bandcamp's the best for me, and I do. Um, I have noticed as like a Bandcamp user myself, just supporting other people's. It's really nice to get the actual files that the artist intended. The high resolution music always sounds so nice in
Yeah,
comparison to the free streaming tracks on Spotify or whatever.
yeah, yeah. I
And
totally agree.
I've got my CDs as well. If you're a physical medium person.
And I love it. Yeah, and I appreciate you sending it to me. I've loved it in my CD
Yeah,
changer.
of course.
So Quinn, it's great to catch up with you. I will have all of the links in the show notes, and you've done a wonderful job of duality here between interviewing and taking care of the dog.
Oh man, yeah.
You,
she's
the struggle is real, so it's been good.
yeah, she's 11-month, 70 pounds.
I can hear it. I can feel it. I'm a dog. I got 3 dogs at home, so I
Yeah.
knew the energy was right there. And you've been doing really good, Quinn.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. It's great to catch up. I look forward to our next rendezvous. Enjoy the tour and the release of the album.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, man. Take care.
Joe Domino here, host of Casey's Neon Jazz Radio. On International Jazz Day, April 30th, join us at the Music Hall in downtown Kansas City for the event of the year, 90 Years of Count Basie Swing. At 7 p.m., the world-famous Count Basie Orchestra takes the stage. From 5 to 7 p.m., it's a VIP reception with jazz legends and honorees. Finally, from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., join the after-party jam session at Lonnie's Reno Club inside the Ambassador Hotel. Tickets are moving fast. Get yours now at kccreativecity.com/count-basie. This event is part of International Jazz Day, supported by the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, with Kansas City proudly standing as America's only creative city of music. I'll see you there, Kansas City.